Get started. All right, welcome everyone to this month's Intentional Success webinar. I'm going to be a little grumpy today because there's some things that are bugging me, and this is the whole idea of last minute orders. So today we're going to talk about why there's no such thing as a last minute order, why we need to get this out of our vocabulary, and what we need to do instead. And I'll tell you, the same companies who are constantly complaining to me how they don't have enough revenue will also complain that they are too busy. Hello? Okay, what's up with this? Let's unpack it. Let's take a look at all this. We can make this work a lot better. My name is Tom Stimson. I'm a business coach and advisor for people in the live event production industry. I do assessments, I coach, I've got a peer group program. I help people with implementation. If you want to be better at what you do, you want to get there faster, you want to reach your goals sooner, then we should definitely have a conversation. So I've kind of alluded to why we're having this webinar, but look, I hear this all the time. Very recently, I heard, hey, we're already too busy in July. Business development walks into a meeting. I'm in a management meeting. He says, hey, we've got this prospect. They have an event in July. And the sales, of all people, the sales team said, oh, man, we're already too busy in July. Really? It's January, people. All right. How can you be too busy in July to take on a piece of ideal work from an ideal customer, which is what business development is bringing in? Okay. This is a seriously unscalable viewpoint. Your business is working exactly the way you want it to, but yeah, you threw up a roadblock, and why? So my question for you is, are you in the business of doing shows, in which case you might be too busy in July, or are you in the business of getting shows done? People who get shows done are not intimidated by more shows because getting shows done is what they do. So companies that do shows run out of capacity really quickly. Companies that get shows done have almost limitless capacity. And I'm going to show you how this works. So how do big event companies get so big? They continually exceed their perceived capacity, and then thereby they create more capacity so they can continue doing what they're doing well. So I'm going to start with the last minute because that's where a lot of this starts. I gave you an example about jobs way down the road, but this often manifests in this idea of last minute. And last minute gets a lot of hate. And as an old operations guy, I'm going to help operations people. We got to take a lot of the blame for this. We're the ones that do this. We throw up the roadblocks, but I'm here to help you because there's a better way to do ops than what we're doing. So we have hate for last minute. We see these jobs come in, and I've heard every one of these things said on the warehouse floor. Oh, look at, they just handed us, and they undersold it. Okay. Who's trying to be a hero? Somebody's trying to help somebody out, and they undersold it. There's the always, well, no one asked me. The reason no one asked you if we could do this last minute work is because they know what your answer is going to be, because you would have said no, right? So why should I even bother asking you? We need to move jobs through the system, right? If I'm listening to the people who are whining about too much work and not solving the problem of too much work, we're going to stop selling. Hey, we're out of people. That's a legitimate concern. When did you stop looking for people? Because if you're already busy and you stop looking for people, if you're out of people and you're not looking for people, whose job is it to do that, right? Looking at a single job that comes in at the last minute, goes, oh, there's a sub rental on there. We're going to have to sub rent the projectors. The sub rental's too expensive. Well, look, fix your pricing, right? But the fact of the matter is, you sold the show, get the show done, right? Who cares if you're going to break even on a sub rental? The rest of the show is going to make you money. Okay. If you are too busy fixing mistakes, if your warehouse operations is constantly, sending trucks back out to show site, doing air shipments, scrambling to get stuff ready, you've got a process problem, right? We need to fix your processes, because you're spending too much time fixing mistakes. And if we got rid of all that mistake fixing time, you'd be amazed how much capacity you have in your business to get more shows done. And then there's the whole idea of it's just not worth it. Why are we doing this? It's $5,000. Why are we doing this? It's not worth it. Who decides that it's not worth it, right? Talk to them, because you know what? They're going to explain to you why it's worth it, right? So last minute is fantastic for your bottom line. If your operations is struggling with it, then we need to take a look at that. All right, let's go back to this July example. I'm going to kind of paint the scenario of this particular business. Yes, they had a lot more jobs than what I'm putting on here, but just by example, they had a job where they needed 26 technicians, and they have to separate some video servers that they don't have and don't really know how to use. They're a little wound up about it. But right now in January, that job is 60% complete in terms of the technical help that they need. They need to find some server programmer. They need to find some hardware. It's 2 phone calls, right? 60% done. They've got a big expo gig. They have 8 out of 10 techs. It's 80% full. They've got a conference where they need a bunch of breakout techs. They've got 50% of them. Maybe they got 25% of them. It doesn't really matter. A lot of them is going to come from the labor pool of the union. They only need 5 really good people to make this whole thing work, right? And then they have this new job. Oh my goodness, we're going to need 10 techs. Well, here's the thing. Without this new job, this ops team is 60% per complete on crewing shows 5 months out. If they add one more show, they're only going to be 50% complete 5 months out. They still have 5 months. The problem is they're looking at one job at a time. So when you build one show at a time, you are never done, because no show is ever done. You can make a job 100% complete. It gets out on show site and something's going to change, right? Something's going to be late. Something is not going to be delivered on. There's so many things that happen, but if we're trying to make every show perfect, we don't have capacity to make all of the shows better. Operations mentality looks at one show at a time. They think they're looking at all the shows, but the fact is our systems and processes are linear, and they're designed to complete one job at a time as we go. So in scalability, in my book Balance, I talk about the selling, planning, and admin spheres that all serve the execution sphere, which is the people out there getting that show done for you. Planning is a better version of operations. And when planning teams, as opposed to operations team, look at capacity, they're looking at all resources, right? For instance, we may have 20% of our technician pool tied up, which means 80% is available. We have 10% of our gear resources tied up, including all the places we could sub-rent. Actually, I don't even know how that could happen, because there's far more sub-rental capacity out there than any of you could ever sell. And then specialty roles. Maybe it's server programmers, but it could be A1s. It could be lead techs. It could be your video directors, right? And if you're at 90% capacity, there is your constraint. Planning says that's wrong. I can never be at 90% capacity of my specialty roles if that is my constraint. These are the people that are the most valuable to us, and we have to trust them, right? They take more vetting. We can't wait till we run out to look for more. This is the planning mindset, right? We have to look ahead at all the jobs that we're going to do and build our resource pool so that we have enough resources to serve the jobs, rather than trying to serve one job at a time. That job is complete. We quit looking for resources. Then we go to the next job. Oh, it needs resources. Make it complete. Then we go to the next job because we quit looking for resources. Okay? It's linear. It's not organic. And honestly, it doesn't work. Okay? Last minute shows are going to cost you more. Can we just get that out of the way, right? Of course it's going to cost more. Of course you're going to be out of stuff. You sell profitably, and then you use the resources that you have to deliver to the best of your ability. The goal is to deliver the show, get the show done. If you're worrying about cost on last minute, that's a selling problem. If you didn't sell it profitably, I can't deliver it profitably. Okay. But we can't not do what we promised because we don't like subrentals, or we're going to have to fly a freelancer in for a local job. Right. Again, this is a mindset problem that we have to overcome. This is an ops problem because we task them with working within the budget rather than delivering the scope of work. So I want to contrast, operations versus planning, right? I would like to get to the point where operations, while the word may still exist, okay, it's a subset of the planning group. In a larger company with a good planning team, operations may be the people working behind the scenes under the planning team that are dealing with, inventory management in the systems, workflows, processes, things like that. The operational processes of moving an order through the system versus the planning of the best use of all the resources. So operations is very much a fill one job at a time, find one resource at a time, wait until you need a resource and then try to find it. Planning is trying to fill all the jobs. And when you add another job in there, it just goes into the pool of all the jobs that they need to fill, which means that they're developing a resource pool. Okay. And they select the best available resources. And because they have a deep resource pool, they always have really good choices that they can make. We're going to take that July job. Planning now has to build a deeper bench of resources. Good news is they were already working on it, right? They're going to reallocate the resources that they have to optimize the usage of them. And let's think about it. If you're already busy in July and you don't take another job because you're too busy, there's too much going on and you're out of resources, you still can't turn down a change order. So the fact of the matter is your capacity has not been defined. You're going to have to do more. It is inevitable. Where are the resources that you're going to draw on to do that? Right? If you can't turn down a change order, if your best customer shows up on the busiest week of the year and wants something done, you got to do it. Okay. Planning plans for that. They know that that's how things work. And of course, they're going to be ready for it. So it's a mindset shift. Let's say, for instance, you're having a little dinner party, right? You invited 8 guests, but then some of your old friends found out about it and called you up and said, hey, we're flying in. 8 of us are coming. We want to hang out with you guys. All of a sudden, you got 16 people. What do? Well, you go to the grocery store. You buy more groceries. You prep more food in advance because you can't do it all on the same day anymore. You rent another table and maybe some chairs. You hire a cleaning service so that you have more time to cook, right? You use a caterer. The fact of the matter is, we don't turn down another seat at the table. Isn't that what your mother always said? Isn't that what your grandmother always said? We always have room for one more, just set another place, right? How does that work? Because the resources are there. Yeah. Is it going to cost you money? Duh. Your dinner party doubled. Okay. Do you want to have the dinner party? Yeah, you do. So get on with it. So we know how to do this. We're not always applying it to our business. So there's 2 ways to create capacity. The old way, the before times, you buy more gear, you hire more people ahead of demand so that you've got lots of people that you can assign to jobs. You have the flexibility. You can take a last minute order because you got people who aren't working yet. You got gear sitting on the shelf so you don't have to subrent. Nobody has to think. Nobody has to plan. We just go pull it off the shelf. Or you can create an increasingly larger pool of resources. Well, isn't buying more gear and hiring more people the same thing as increasing your resources? Yeah, it's one way to increase your resources. It's not the smart way. So you need a deeper bench. We know you need a big freelance pool. There are lots of excuses for not finding more key techs. When you say things like, we need people that understand how we work, if you can't explain how you work, the freelancer is not the problem, right? You don't know how you work. You're reactive. It's the Wild West. You're winging it. That's how you work, which is why freelancers don't know how to function, because you're not using standards and best practices, right? Sometimes when we hire people that we don't know, they make mistakes. Well, duh. Now, my advice is, you hire somebody you don't know well, put them in a position where they can't make a mistake, right? Give them the support they need, right? But you're going to make mistakes in recruiting people. Learn from them and move on. You know, if your freelance pool is all based on referrals, you're going to do a much better job of finding good people to add to your pool. If your techs have to use your project platform, if they have to get into Flex or IntelliVent or Lasso or whatever you're using, okay, how are you going to hire an outsider because you can't let them in on your project platform? Okay, that's a process problem. Okay, why would a tech need to do that? How can we fix that? How can we address that? And then here's the other thing. Well, freelancers cost more money. Well, yeah, the good ones do. Actually, right now, some of the bad ones cost more money, right? Of course they cost more money. Duh. Is your pricing not able to support outsourcing? So don't blame your resource pool for your bad pricing, right? If you can't make margin outsourcing, you've got a pricing problem. You don't have a supply chain problem. It's a you problem, right? Back to this long lead. If you can't handle long lead busy, how are you going to be able to deal with last minute, right? If it's all about capacity of what's on hand, I can do last minute because we've got gear on the shelf and people sitting idle. Well, you were burning money before that last minute came up, which means the last minute's the best thing that ever happened to you. If you can't handle long lead where you have a ramp, you have a long road to get ready for things, to add revenue that's going to generate gross profit, okay, then you've got another problem. So this is all about changing mindset, right? I want you to change your mindsets. Okay. Scalability solves the capacity problem, right? This is as you guys know, for me, this has been a huge, long journey to understand how all of this works and how to get to this resolution, that it's not about the number of people that you have in your business. It's about how good they are. And scalable companies have better people doing work to get shows done rather than doing shows. You need process and you need resources to make this work. So the scalability mindset will give you things like more resourceful managers. A resourceful manager can't be too busy to solve problems. They embrace the opportunity to take on the challenge of one more show, right? This is what they live for. If they don't, okay, if they're a process-driven person whose goal is to create roadblocks to minimize how busy they are, okay, what is that doing for your business? The fact is, that's probably keeping you from growing, it's keeping your customers from being happy, and it's hurting your margins. Now, scalability has better margins because you will spend what it takes, which means that you will learn how to sell what's required to make money. So many of our challenges, so many of our mindset issues on being operationally one show at a time minded is built around this concept of job cost and looking at an individual cost for one item on a giant job and being upset that you're not making money there and forgetting that you're making money everywhere else. And then when you look at multiple jobs, you look at this one job that has a high cost rate because there's a lot of outsourcing, a lot of sub rentals, but you forget that's letting this other job be more profitable, right? So there are better margins inherently in scalable systems because we know how to sell, we know how to use the resources to optimize the profitability of all the jobs instead of one job at a time. Scalable companies, planning groups, batch solutions, right? They hire resources to support multiple jobs. If you're booking resources one job at a time, you're missing the opportunity to book a valuable resource for a month, for several jobs, right? Batching resources will make you more efficient. And scalable companies always backfill. They're constantly building their bench. Just because you don't need another LED wall supplier doesn't mean that you don't talk to one. They might be better than the ones that you have. They might be a good resource in a pinch. The fact is, if you put all your eggs in one basket, if you just have one key supplier for everything that you do, what happens when they run out of capacity, right? That's not building your resource bench. You need lots of ways to go. So planning people do not tolerate running out of resources. Our motto is never again. We're constantly building our bench. So scalable companies get shows done. This is not about doing shows. Everybody can do a show. It's not that hard, right? I did it. It's not that hard. It's about getting shows done. So we have a selling group and we have a planning group. We have an execution group. This is the part that gets the shows done. Selling creates the order that's priced properly and is doable. In other words, the scope of work and the things that we put into the budget line up, right? So planning secures all the resources and creates the manual for the execution team to go out and do the show, right? They make sure that we're going to get the show done, and they're not going out and doing the show themselves because that would be a capacity constraint. Because as soon as this show is set out, we've got 5 more shows that we need to work on because they're working on all of the shows, often over months in advance at the same time, right? They're pushing everything forward, building the resource pool, reallocating the resource to optimize it. The only people who focus on one job at a time is execution. The wonderful thing about being a tech is I go out on a show and I don't have to worry about any other shows. So many of us have project management systems where your project manager is out there trying to execute a show and they're trying to work on 2 or 3 other shows at the same time. Okay. That's not help. That's what we call doing shows. That's not helping shows get done. So again, very different mindset. So what's this planning team look like? Let's look at a planning team. So planning has a leader, and if you're a small company, this might be one person who's the entire planning team, but they're typically a veteran production manager who knows how shows are put together, knows what the crew needs, knows enough about moving the gear around and scheduling. Okay. They can get the big picture and get things done. Honestly, this is what I used to do. When I came in from the field, I wasn't the best field person. I was a good project lead in the field, but I wasn't a great technician. So let's take that and let's put me in here. Now I'm looking at all the jobs and sharing what I know with all the jobs. We need somebody who's in procurement. Please don't call them a labor coordinator. I will come after you. There will be fighting. Okay. You need a project coordinator who one of the things they do is procures talent. Labor coordinators are transactional. Procurement specialists, project coordinators are strategic. They need to be fearless about reaching out to people, hunting down solutions, following leads for a freelancer referral. Okay. They have loyal suppliers that are happy to hear from them, right? They are a relationship builder for your business. They are not somebody who is just placing orders. Just like we don't need order takers in sales, we don't need order placers in procurement. Procurement is strategic. And if you've got a team of 8 people, you're going to have a 3-person planning team. You're going to have a technical specialist on there. You're going to have that person who knows how all this stuff works, that can support sales when they need support until they have their own technical specialist. Make sure that all the gear we're providing is going to work. Help the procurement specialist make sure that the solution that we're sub-renting is going to work in this situation. Making sure that the show book speaks to the technical side of the team, while the show flow is speaking to the client-facing side of the team, right? This is a planning team. If you have 8 people in your business and you have this 3-person planning team, a couple of folks in sales, you've got a warehouse manager, You've got a bookkeeper and you've got the owner. There's nothing that would keep you from doing $8 million of business a year other than not understanding how to sell beyond your perception of capacity. And trust me, I've got clients that do this, right? So more about planning differing from us, okay? Planning is strategic, okay? We view the outside resources as fluid, not static. I'll show you another visual here in a minute that will help you with this. They are not afraid to spend money to do what is needed, right? You've sold the job. We don't have permission in planning to not deliver the job as sold. What we have is permission to get the right resources there to make it work, right? So they're not afraid to spend the money to do what is needed. They will invest in things like cables and accessories and show kits that will extend the capacity of your existing inventory by making it easier for you to add sub-rentals into the mix, right? So if you run out of video projectors, then it also means that you ran out of fiber cable and distros and everything else that it takes to power the projectors, okay? What do we need to own? Do we need to own more projectors, or do we need to own more stuff that makes the projectors workable, right? What's the better investment? What I call glue items, the accessories, cables, and show kits, okay? Glue items last forever, right? Projectors come and go, right? Front of house mixing systems will last you a really long time. Speakers can come and go. You can always sub-rent racks and stacks. Okay? You need a lot of front of house. You need all the cables and accessories that go with it. That's what we invested. And then there's the gear and people. Quality control, okay, and downtime are high priorities. I need an appropriate amount of downtime for my people, which means I need a deep pool so I'm not burning out my crew, which makes it easier for me to book them out. It makes them more flexible when you need to move them around on jobs, and this works for freelancers as well. Quality control has to be a high priority because something that is not QC'd is not a reliable resource. So when, and this is a recent podcast, right? When the gear comes back to the shop, the highest priority is to check everything in, go through the quality control process, get it back on the shelf, ready to go out again. That is higher priority than anything else you have to do in the warehouse. Show prep can happen later. Show prep will go faster if you prioritize gear and people. Shows will work better if you prioritize the downtime that your people have. If you give them that 2 days off between 7-day shows, it makes all the difference in the world. You need a deep bench to do that. Another visual here, operations view versus the planning view. Operations tends to look at an individual job, right? And they go find the resources from the different suppliers to fill that job. And the suppliers may be your in-house inventory, your in-house techs, but it could be the labor pool, the staffing company, your sub-rental suppliers, your other partners, right? And we fill that job and then we move on to the next one. The planning view is build a pool of resources, look at all of the jobs and funnel the resources to the jobs. It's a fundamentally different way of looking at things. Where can I find a resource to fill the order versus do I have enough resources to fill all of my orders? If I have enough resources to fill all of my orders, I have the flexibility to change where those resources go to optimize them as new jobs come in. If I tie up my resources one job at a time, okay, I'm locking myself in. I have jobs that are 90% complete. I'm trying to get that last 10% done. I don't have time to do one more job, even if it's 5 months out. Okay. Planning is a better way of looking at what we do. So I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking about my career, managing sales and operations. And part of my viewpoint on all this and part of the why I'm so passionate about this is because I managed sales, I did sales, and I managed operations at the same time in a growing company. It's a really unique situation to be in, to have done that from the early days of the company for almost 15 years, right? My job probably could have been broken up, but I was able to develop a team or have the the privilege of a team developing under me that was able to make this work. But having that viewpoint that as a salesperson, I wanted to sell this next job. As a sales manager, I wanted all my salespeople to be able to say yes to opportunities, which meant as an operations manager, I needed to make sure that one more job wasn't going to kill us or 5 more jobs. So there's some tricks. As I'm thinking about this webinar, I'm putting these slides together. There's all these tricks I started remembering that we used to do. So I'm going to share a couple of them with you. Maybe it will help you understand the shift in mindset. Put your best techs and leads into non-lead roles when you're busy so that they can help others. Take your best audio person, make them the system engineer for that well-recommended A1 you just hired and booked on that show so they've got support, right? Subrent by the month. If you're busy, subrent by the month, not by the show, right? Think about how many times you can get use out of this. Again, you're taking an outside resources and you're making it part of your internal resources, which is going to give you more capacity. What's the difference? How many more times would you have to use something that you need for a week if you rented it for a month? You use it one more time, you're money ahead, right? If you're busy, hire a truck and driver together for a week at a time. Don't just book a freelancer to drive your truck. Hire somebody with their own dang truck, right? And book them for a week. Put them there on standby. Put them on call. Give them a schedule or give them all the scheduled deliveries, okay? If you've got a big show in town or out of town, assign a dedicated van and driver to big jobs so they always have somebody to do errands, right? We need somebody to run and pick something up. We've got the resource to do it. We can keep those jobs moving, right? Great tricks. It reduces the stress back on the office to solve problems on show site when all we need is somebody to drive 5 miles, go pick up a piece of gear and bring it back, right? It's a small expense for a huge benefit. On your busy weeks over cruise shows, right? I would also hold people back, right? If you're super busy, I make sure I got a couple of ringers available. I may send them out to a job as an extra person until I need them somewhere else. But if you've got a 10-man technical crew and a production manager, put another heavy hitter person on that crew. If you've got a 20-person load-in crew, order 24, right? So many problems go away if we make the small investment in extra people. And, I know some of you guys, you're doing 200, 300, $4, $5 million shows. This is a rounding error on that. If you're a small company, you're doing a $15,000 show, you already do this. You let the driver stay and help set up. That's an extra person, right? So keep that mindset as you grow. Pre-schedule emergency deliveries, right? My crew, we all hated local shows, right? Because local shows tend to have problems that the shop had to solve. We learned that we could control the emergency. Oh, by the way, we need this by saying when we sent them their paperwork, the truck comes at 8 a.m. Here's when I'll cruise. You get the stuff done. I have another truck scheduled for you at 11. Give me a call by 10. I'll make sure everything you need is on that truck, right? So doing little things like that so the crew is not calling you one problem at a time and you're making multiple runs, just schedule the emergency delivery, right? ASAP is not a helpful time, right? When somebody calls from show site, and when somebody calls from show site, they are God. They are the most important person in the world. They're customer facing. They're in the hot seat. You've got to solve their problem. But the one thing you can't do from show site is say, hey, we're missing the snake. We need it ASAP. ASAP is not a helpful time frame. When do you really need it by? Can you wait till the 11 o'clock run? Oh, yeah, I guess we could. That's not a problem. All right, then it's not an emergency, is it? That's not ASAP. Okay. Our projector went down. We need another projector. We need it right now. Well, okay, what's your drop dead? Well, it's 2 o'clock. We've got doors at 5. Okay, so your drop dead is 4. Awesome. I'll have it there by 3:30. Right. So we have to de-escalate these things because we need to take some control over timing and resources. And whenever we can, we over deliver by showing up early. And then keep your planning team in their seats so they can see all the jobs at once. When you take your planning team and you send them out on a show, you just messed up the whole thing. The only exception I always make to this is that if it's a slow month and the planning crew just wants to get out and do a show to keep their chops up, save a few bucks, knock yourself out. Okay. I'm hearing less and less seasonality in our forecasts this year. Okay. You don't really have downtime, right? You need a planning team that lives in their seats. They're always working on the next jobs. There's always something to be done for the future, and there's always a resource pool to build. The job never ends. Which brings me to the question of when do you turn down work, right? When your planning team is out of time to create more resources, then it's time to say, hey, we need to put a blackout on these dates. Okay. When you're out of time, the planning team will tell you when they're out of time, and then they're going to self-reflect and go, we should never run out of time. Okay. We needed more resources than we could have done this. Right. So the goal of planning is always to have a deeper resource pool, which means spreading the work around. Because if you keep using the same people over and over again, the rest of your resources don't return your calls. They're not as quick to respond to you. Spread that work around, give everybody a taste, okay, and you'll keep that pool happy. All right, I told you I was on a little bit of a rant. We'll get around to questions here. If you guys will use the Q&A box, okay, and post some questions in there, you can ask me about anything. You can ask me about this webinar or whatever else is on your mind. I love to answer questions, and we got plenty of time for questions. We might even get to wrap up a little bit early today, and you guys can get back to building your resource pool. Let me talk about a couple of things while you're coming up with your questions. Look, big 2024 coming up. Lots of retooling in my business. I'm very excited. I'm loving coming to work every day because there's so much good stuff going on. We have an intentional success club, a new club opening next week, and an existing club that's ongoing. We've got 8 new members already. There's still time to sign up. You can sign up later in the year. But hey, why not sign up now and get the entire year together? So if you've been thinking about it, I've got 2 great options for you, whatever state, size, condition of your company or your management team. Principals, second in commands, we could have more than one person in a club. Book a call with me right away, and we can probably get you into next Wednesday's group if you're ready to go. Strategic road mapping. We're doing assessments, understand where you're at, work on your strategy, make sure you're crystal clear about what business you're in so that we can eliminate some noise, focus on your goal, and give you a roadmap to get there. If you want to know how to get to the next level, if you want to be crystal clear about what your next steps need to be and what your priorities are, road mapping is the best thing that I have to offer for you. Love to talk to you about that. Everybody is in a different situation. Sometimes, being in a peer group, intentional success club isn't giving you everything that you need. You might need some short-term coaching. You might have some managers that need some short-term coaching to tune them up, get them in higher productivity, get them to migrate into the roles that you're trying to get them to take over. I'm happy to help with that. We should certainly chat about that. And it's going to be a great year for events, right? We've got 3 jump starts planned. The first one's going to be in Atlanta at the beginning of April. The third will be an evening social event. We'll have the all-day jump start on the 4th. Nice reception, time for you to go out to dinner with your friends and colleagues. Masterclass right before InfoComm in Las Vegas. It'll be on June 11th. That's an owners only workshop. It's a half day, fine dinner, great networking. A lot of value, very popular event. We've done it 2 years. We've always sold out. Another jumpstart in Denver, August 14th and 15th. Jumpstart in Dallas will be November 20th and 21. And then at LDI, which has a weird new schedule in December, we're looking at a master class on December 9th, again, back in Las Vegas. Again, this will be primarily geared to owners. This will be a high-level strategic half-day event, lovely dinner, fine dining, my favorite thing in the world, is to take owners to a nice dinner, and that's what we'll be doing. So stay tuned for updates about all of those things. So if you want to talk to me about anything, if you just want to ask a question about this webinar, please chat. Just give me a call. Scan the QR code, book a meeting, go to my website, click on Let's Chat, set a time up. I'm happy to meet with you. We can talk about anything you want to talk about. You know, this is the highlight of my day. Getting a call from somebody that I've never met before, or somebody I haven't heard from in years, right? If you're interested in anything that I've been talking about, I want to talk with you. Please reach out anytime. No obligations. All right. All right. I'm not seeing any questions coming in, which means you guys are brilliant and everything I said was spot on. I know you've got some questions. Get them posted. Some takeaways. One of my mantras is make a plan so you can change it. I love the concept of planning. We plan so that we can deal with the things that happen. If we don't have a plan, we are going to be reactive. Reactive is expensive. Reactive is messy. Reactive is not consistent. Okay. Planning always works. Make a plan so you can change it. Sell profitably and then don't worry about it. Sell profitably and then do what it takes. If you're worried about what it's going to take to do what you sold it wrong. We need to fix your selling, right? Planning will take care of the rest. Your best people, the most valuable people in your company are the ones that keep other people busy, not the ones who stay busy themselves. Anybody can be busy, right? The best people will keep other people busy at their highest and best use, right? Where are they going to have the most impact for the business, right? And then external resources. I'm a big fan of outsourcing. I want you to treat external resources as equally valuable as your internal resources. It's a resource pool. The bigger your pool, the better choices you have, the better outcomes you're going to get. And that's question time. All right, let me get rid of this share and you can just look at my silly face for the rest of this. All right, questions. All right, there's some stuff in the chat that you guys might want to respond to. Yes, Nancy, that was a great mug in that photo. All right, let me help you with some questions. All right, so great question just came up. What's the sweet spot of staff versus freelancers? That's a brilliant question. Here's the thing, there isn't one. That's what the book Balance is all about. Depending on your business model, there's going to be a different balance for you. If you're a highly transactional company doing lots and lots of small jobs, it's mostly last minute work, the chances are you're going to have more technical staff than freelance staff compared to a company that does events, right? And everything is event oriented, shows. So there's rental plus service, and then there are shows. Shows, people are buying an outcome. Rental and service, you're there to make sure the gear works for them. So if you're in the show business, you need a higher level, you need a higher ratio of outsource to insource, right? So like I said, there's not a sweet spot on there, but that's part of what we do in the assessment process is understand what it is that you actually do and what makes the most sense. I do have clients that we have technical staff on there and it makes sense for them to have it. I have a lot of clients over the past year and a half or 2 years, we've dramatically reduced, if not eliminated, their on-staff technical team. We outsource just about everything. So it really depends on your business. Can the PM and procurement specialist positions be from people outside the industry? Are these people universal enough to come up with speed to work with tech experts? Okay. So project manager. So if the senior production manager for planning, this is probably an industry person. I would have trouble. If you're a big enough organization and you're managing a team of people, yeah, they could be industry adjacent. But for most of the people in my audience that, if you've got less than 30 employees, chances are you need somebody who has field experience, who is a better office person than a field person. like me, right? Um, procurement, procurement is a relationship job, right? They don't need to know anything about the industry. They can learn what they need to learn. It doesn't take long to train them up if they're already a people person, right? So, the same thing is with sales. If you have people who are good at having conversations and are fearless about outreach, put them in sales. We can teach them the AV. And the fact of the matter is, a good sales team is going to have a technical specialist at their disposal to help them put together budgets. If your biggest concern about hiring a salesperson is can they build a budget, we need to fix your process. There are better salespeople out there who don't know anything about how to put an AV budget together, but they know everything about asking the right questions and getting information out of the client so you can serve them. So procurement, yeah, we can come, what we want is a people person. They can come from just about anywhere. This is about details, but it's also about relationships. Um, and then technical experts are obviously are going to be your show people, right? Um, if you have a technical expert, you can support somebody better, particularly in procurement. Okay. But the lead for a planning team, and that lead person may not be the person that you hire first, it may be the person you hire third, okay, will have probably a broader overview of the industry. All right. Next, other questions. Yes. Okay. So I talk about two inside technical experts very often in the book Balance for organizations that are probably 15 or more people. I am going to have a technical expert on the sales team who helps with budgeting and designing show solutions, right? That's part of what helps make sure that selling is selling something that's doable at the right price, and we're not overlooking how many people it's going to take to do, what the scope of work and the technology, how well they align. Having a dedicated person for a team of 3, 5, or 8 salespeople is very, very valuable. It'll give you a huge amount of consistency. That person needs to be customer facing. They're going to go to meetings. They're going to talk to clients. They are not going to production manage a show. They're going to make sure that the show that was sold, when it is picked up by planning is going, thank you. We have the information that we need. Let's have a quick kickoff call. We're going to get started all this. We're going to start aligning resources to it. Let us know if anything changes, right? The planning team also needs a technical resource. Now, because I know our industry, this is probably the technical resource who's not your best customer facing person, right? But they're really brilliant. They're really smart. They know how things work. They know how to talk to technicians, talk them through stuff over the phone. It could be what you would call a department head, but I don't need 4 department heads on my planning team. I need the person who knows a little bit about everything or knows how to get the answer, right? But if they don't have the interpersonal skills to go out on calls with salespeople, if they are not great, and this is what I typically find, we have somebody who's really good at all the technology, and we keep putting them in charge of show sites, but they're horrible at leading people. They're horrible at managing crews because they're so focused on the technology. Um, these are people who like to be involved in everything. Planning is a great place for them to be involved with everything, right? So, next question. Okay. All right. Man, we're thin on questions today. So, all right, I'm gonna let you guys go early because hey, we've all got stuff to do, and this isn't the first time I wrapped up a little bit early. So just remember, you have an opportunity to do more business, understand what your constraint is, and work on solving for that constraint. Okay. Very often that constraint is that you don't have enough people dedicated to getting shows done. You have too many people who are trying to do shows, right? Think about making that mindset shift so that you can become more scalable and love last minute shows and look forward to being too busy because it's a problem you know how to solve. Thanks for listening. Have a great month, everyone. We'll see you in February.